Welcome back to another episode of Fed Retirement Weekly. This is Fed Retirement Weekly episode number 12, I believe it is. And today I'm going to talk about a question I received. And this one I've been asked quite a bit, but never so much in this way. But the question was essentially, when should I go from being in the G fund, so they're investing in the G fund, when should I move that money from the G fund to some of the funds that are more volatile, like the C, S, and I funds? For those unaware, the G fund is the guaranteed fund in the thrift savings plan. It is the safest fund in the thrift savings plan. It's basically a fixed rate of return. It does fluctuate up and down, but it's a pretty solid 1% to 2% rate of return that they give you for putting your money in the TSP, and it's guaranteed. So you're guaranteed not to lose any money. So it's not going to have any negative gains or anything like that. However, in the same sense, and I've talked about this in videos and in articles before, but the G fund barely keeps up with inflation. Sometimes it doesn't keep up with inflation, so you could be losing money. Okay, now the question is, I've got my money in the G fund. I've invested it. I put it in there because I put in my 5% like you suggest. This is what they said. I put in my 5% like you suggest to get the match, and I have it in the G fund, but I'm worried about what the market's going to do in the future, and I don't know when I should put it into the funds like the C, S, and I. And this is a great question. I think too many people will go into the market too soon, or just without thought, because they see on TV that the market's doing well. For instance, recently the market has almost hit, at least as of this video, the market had almost reached 20,000. The Dow had almost reached 20,000. Okay. Now, the Dow reaching 20,000 in reality doesn't mean a whole lot. It's something to get excited about, but in my opinion, the way the index is tracked, really it only contains 30 different stocks, okay? And also the way that it's tracked, it's very much kind of archaic and not a very good determining factor on how the economy is doing. So if you're getting excited about 20,000, it's a cool thing to see, but that being said, it's not a great determining factor for you to base your investments off of. But since everybody is talking about it, people are getting excited and wanting to invest in the market. The Dow's almost at 20,000. I need to get in before when it goes up. Okay. The issue here is the idea that I was actually introduced to many years ago, just in reading. I think I actually originally heard the idea from Benjamin Graham, who wrote The Intelligent Investor, and that Benjamin Graham is Warren Buffett's mentor. But it's an idea that was actually talked about in one of my advanced investments class in college as well. And the idea is buy low, sell high. BLSH, buy low, sell high. If there is one thing you can get from this channel and from my writing, it's to buy low and sell high. Too many people will go into the market when it's reaching its tippity top. Okay, they'll invest in the C fund when it's at its top, and then when it goes down, they freak out, and then they start selling. Okay, I see it all the time. So in 2008, for instance, so many people were invested in the CS and I around 2008. Well, the bottom dropped out, everybody lost money, and everybody sold. Okay, the problem there is, rather than selling at that time, you should actually be buying. So the suggestion that you should, and it's hard to determine, it's hard to decide when you should go in and when you should come out of the market. That's why for the majority of investors, I suggest just sticking it somewhere and not worrying about it. Okay, there's no reason to try and time the market and beat the market if you don't really know what you're doing. And even if you do know what you're doing, most likely you're not going to beat the market. Okay, I'm actually writing an article right now on what I call the ultimate guide to the C fund. And this is supposed to be a guide that is absolutely comprehensive and is more in depth than any other guide that's been written on any of the funds. I'm going to do one for each fund. This one is for the C fund, and it's already over 2,100 words. Okay, it's very in depth. But what I found with the C fund is, if you would have invested $100 in 1988, September 29th, which is when the C fund was introduced, if you would have invested $100 and just left it, didn't touch it, your account would have grown to $1,477 by the end of 2015. So for you out there, and there's many of you who started around that time and started contributing to the TSP and have gone in and out of the C fund so many times it would make your head spin, if you would have just left it in there, you probably would have had a greater return than what you have now. In fact, the average return since inception, 1988, September 29th, the C fund has earned over 10% in annual returns. Over 10%. That's a great return. If I said, hey, I've got an investment that could earn you 10% for the next 30 years, would you take it? Yes, you most likely would. You would say without a doubt, if I can average 10%, guaranteed I'm gonna take it. The problem is people get scared when the market starts doing this thing. Okay, when the market starts going up and down, they get scared, which I understand, but here's the thing. The market, at least from a historical perspective, has always bounced back. In 2008, everybody was scared that it wasn't gonna bounce back, that it wouldn't come back. It was down for the rest, it was down forever. Investing was no longer, but that didn't happen. As we see, in 2013, we had a record year, and we've had record years since then. I mean, we're almost at record highs for various indexes, and this is how the market acts. So when should you jump in the CS&I? Well, it's a little bit difficult for me to give you an exact time period because the problem is, as an investment advisor and a financial advisor, it's hard for me to give a recommendation unless I know more on your personal situation. So right now I'm going to talk in generalities. This isn't necessarily a recommendation. This is more a suggestion to look at. So I would suggest thinking about investing in the market in the CS&I when the market's down. So I would wait. In my opinion, personally, this is what you see guys like Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger do. They'll hold on to cash when the market's doing well. When the market tanks, when the market drops, that's when they're buying everything up. That's how it was in 2008. That's when they picked up a lot of different companies because they were selling for dirt cheap. There's no reason to buy something at the top. I mean, you can relate to this if you're buying a home. You're not going to want to buy when the market's at the all-time high. You want to buy when the market's down. So the same thing is said for your investments. You want to invest in the CS&I funds when the market's down, when the stocks are cheap. If you would have kept all of your money in the G fund in 2008 and when the bottom dropped out, you invested and would have just kept that, can you imagine how much more gains you would have received if you would have bought at the top in 2007 and wrote it down and wrote it back up? That said, I don't want this to be a video that makes you want to jump in and out of the market more. Because if you're somebody who doesn't have a ton of experience and a ton of knowledge on investing, it's not something you really should do or really need to do. There's a reason that Warren Buffett has mentioned about the recommendation he gives to his trust fund advisor for the money he's leaving to his wife. The recommendation that he gave was he wants her to put 90% in an S&P 500 fund, low-cost S&P 500 fund, and 10% in government bonds. Well, you know what you can do? You could put 90% into the S&P 500 fund, the C fund, and put 10% into the F fund as well, and you would be in accordance with one of the greatest investors' guidelines of all time. That's something you should look at. Okay, so when to jump in, when to jump out. I hope this has kind of clarified some things for you. I really just wanted to get it across: buy low, sell high. If there's nothing else you get from this video, remember, buy low, sell high. But this has been Cooper with FedRetirementPlanning.com, Fed Retirement Weekly. The reason I do these videos is because I get these questions. So if you have a question, please ask me so I can keep making these videos and trying to help you guys as much as I can. All right, well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.